Tonight, you drift backward, not by years, not by centuries, but by whole lifetimes stacked like rotting planks beneath your feet. The world you enter is neither alive nor dead. It is suspended between ritual and silence, where swords are prayers and dawn itself feels sharpened. The year is hidden in ash and incense, but you know you are somewhere in medieval Japan, in the shadow of 1,000 lords, under the indifferent gaze of distant kami who rarely answer. You breathe smoke. Rice paddies glisten like mirrors in the moonlight, and the faint creak of bamboo sways as if the land itself sighs. The village sleeps, but the castle above does not. Lanterns flicker against blackened timber, shadows crawling like spirits across the paper walls. Somewhere, a drumbeat echoes, measured, unrelenting, as though the night itself is being commanded to kneel. Here, your name is nothing. You are not samurai yet, but you are bound to their world. Every gesture is a law, every silence a blade. Death waits at the edge of the tatami mat, as ordinary as breath, as constant as hunger. Close your eyes, step barefoot into this place. The gods do not watch, but the earth remembers, and as the mist curls around you, you descend into the first of many days. You wake not to the comfort of sheets, but to the brittle scratch of straw pressed unevenly beneath your cheek. It smells of dust, of sweat long dried, of faint mould creeping in from the damp edges of the night. The mat beneath you is thin, patched with rushes, and more whole than weave. The air is close, heavy with the breath of others, men lined in rows like forgotten bundles of cloth. You shift, and the straw whispers, brittle as bones. It is not comfort that wakes you, but sound. The slow drip of water from a crack in the beams above, the faint murmur of voices still caught in dreams, the cough of someone near, raw and hollow, a shuffle of feet against tatami. You know the rhythm of each sound, as if they were notes in a song you cannot escape. Even in sleep they haunt you. The night fire has burned low. A few embers glow in the corner, but the light they give is weak and red, like the dying eye of a forgotten god. Smoke lingers, seeping into the walls, clinging to your skin. It stings faintly, but you are used to it. The smoke is as familiar as hunger, as ordinary as fatigue. You open your eyes wider. The beams above you creak softly, as if remembering the weight of storms. Shadows stretch long, bending across the thin paper screens. The walls are fragile, thin enough that the wind itself rattles them, moaning like a restless spirit. Outside, the night air carries the smell of earth, damp and metallic, as though the soil itself has been drinking. You turn slightly on your mat. The floor is cold beneath the woven reed, and the straw scratches against your neck. Beside you, someone stirs. You do not know his name. You never needed to. In this place, names are less important than roles, and roles are more fleeting than dawn. He coughs again, a deep sound that rattles through his chest. You wonder if he will see another spring. You do not ask. The place where you sleep is neither home nor prison. It is something stranger, a liminal chamber where men drift between duty and dream. You do not own it, yet it claims you. Even when you leave, the smell of it clings to your robes, to your hair, to your breath. A room is supposed to shelter. This one consumes. The straw itself feels alive sometimes. Rats gnaw at its edges. Lice hide within. You feel them sometimes, crawling along your wrist in the night. You brush them away without thought. Even vermin must live. You tell yourself, though you would crush them if you could. Still, there is a certain kinship in the scratching and the dark. You, they, all creatures scrambling through shadow, seeking warmth where there is none. And the gods, they do not come here. If they once did, they turned away long ago. No shrine stands in the corner. No charm hangs from the beams. The place is bare, stripped of protection. When you lie here, you lie beneath the gaze of no one. Only the earth watches, and the earth does not care. You close your eyes again, though you are awake. Sleep here is not rest. It is waiting. Waiting for the gong, the bark of orders, the rise of the sun that always comes too soon. Waiting for the sound of feet on wooden floors, for the creak of armor being lifted. You do not dream often, but when you do, it is always of the same things. Rice steaming in a bowl, water cool and clean, a silence without obligation, dreams you can never keep. Your bones ache from the hardness beneath you. You curl slightly, knees to chest, and your robe falls open at the shoulder. The air creeps in, cool and damp, touching your skin like a ghost. You shiver, though you try not to. Shivering feels like weakness, and weakness is noticed. Still, in these last moments before dawn, there is a strange peace. The room is hushed, the breath of others rising and falling like waves. You listen to it, the soft chorus of survival. Each cough, each sigh, each shift in the straw reminds you that you are not alone, though loneliness still presses close. You share a room, but solitude has 1,000 hands. Perhaps you wonder what it would be like to sleep elsewhere in the great hall with its polished wood beneath silk covers, beside lanterns kept burning through the night. But such thoughts are dangerous. They taste like envy, and envy is a hunger that devours from within. Better to stay in your place. Better to curl into the straw and let its dust settle into your hair. The earth remembers you here. Each night you sink into it, leaving behind fragments of yourself, the sweat from your skin, the weight of your limbs, the faint heat that lingers when you rise. If you vanished tomorrow, the floor would know, the straw would know. It would whisper your absence, even if no one else did. And so you lie in the place where you sleep, a space not chosen but inherited. It is both cradle and coffin. The straw creaks when you breathe, and for a moment you wonder which role it prefers. The drip of water continues. The embers sigh. The shadows bend and stretch. The night does not care that you are awake. It never has. And soon, though you do not wish it, dawn will come. But for now, in the cold dark, you breathe and wait. The first sensation of morning is not light. It is cloth, coarse, stiff, and colder than the air itself. Your robe clings to you as though it resents being worn, as though the fabric itself remembers the body of the last man who wore it. You shift, and the weave scratches against your skin, pulling faintly at the hairs on your arm. It smells of smoke, of sweat ground into its seams, of the faint musk of unwashed days stacked endlessly upon one another. This is no silk, no finery meant for display in painted scrolls or songs. This is the uniform of survival. Its threads are roughened from repeated washing in river water that never seems clean enough, from drying in the sun until it stiffens like bark. You tie it closed with hands still half asleep, the knot slipping once, then twice before catching. The cord is frayed, and you wonder idly how many mornings remain before it finally snaps. When you dress, you do not think of dignity. You think of weight. Each layer, however thin, settles onto your shoulders like another command, another burden you did not choose. The robe is plain, a colour somewhere between earth and ash, designed not to be noticed. It is as though invisibility has been woven into its very fibres. To be seen too much is to risk envy, suspicion, danger. Better to blend into the wooden walls, to vanish like shadow. Your feet slip onto sandals made of straw and leather. They are worn, the edges curled, the straps digging slightly into your skin. The soles remember every road you've walked. Stone, mud, broken ground. You feel the memory in the unevenness beneath your toes, in the way one side sinks deeper than the other. Each step will carry those histories forward. Each step will grind the past into the dust. If you are unlucky today, you will wear armour. You do not yet lift it, but you feel its presence hanging in the corner, waiting. Lamella plates tied with cords, lacquered and dulled from use. Heavy when you hold it, heavier still when it wraps itself across your chest. It was not made for comfort. It was made to keep you alive long enough to serve again tomorrow. That is all. The plates clink faintly when touched, like teeth chattering. You run a hand across the garment you wear now, fingers tracing the weave. There is no softness here. The robe accepts your body but never welcomes it. It is indifferent, like the gods above, like the soil beneath. You are covered, yes, but not protected. There is nothing between your skin and the cold except stubborn fabric. And yet, within this indifference, there is ritual. Dressing is not a choice but a rhythm. Each movement has been done countless times before you, by countless men whose names have already vanished. The robe remembers them all. When you slip your arms through its sleeves, you are not alone. You are wearing the weight of generations, wearing the silence of the forgotten. Sometimes, when the morning is still, you imagine the robe speaking, not in words, but in rustles, in threads pulling tighter when you move. You imagine it asking, "Who will wear me when you are gone? How many bodies will I endure before the last thread frays?" It is a strange companionship, the knowledge that even cloth outlives you. If you look closely, you see the patches, places where holes were sewn shut, where new cloth replaced old. A robe is not thrown away lightly. It is mended until nothing remains of its original self. Perhaps this is its truest lesson. You too will be mended again and again until you are unrecognizable, until you are nothing but memory stitched together with silence. Around your waist, you tie a sash. The knot is practiced, firm and slightly uneven. You feel the pressure at your middle, holding you together, as if without it you might come apart. The sash is not decoration, it is necessity. It keeps the robe from slipping, keeps your body from being exposed to the cold air, keeps you bound, disciplined. Even your clothing insists on obedience. You step outside briefly, and the morning air slides beneath the hem of your robe. It chills your ankles, your calves, your knees. The fabric lifts slightly in the breeze, and you feel for a moment as though the wind itself might strip you bare. But the robe holds. It does not yield. It presses close, clinging like obligation. Later, when duty calls, you may add layers, the armor's plates, the cords that bind them, the helm that smells of iron and sweat. Each addition is heavier than the last. Each addition robs you of breath, of ease. You will not walk like yourself when dressed this way. You will walk like a thing built from cloth and metal, a body hidden within a body, faceless and silent. And when you remove it, when at last the armor is set aside, you will feel lighter, yes, but not free, because beneath the iron, beneath the cords, beneath every shield and plate, the robe still waits. Always there, always indifferent. You cannot escape what you wear. Even naked, you would carry it. The fabric of expectation, of role, of station. To live here is to dress in duty each morning, to wear the silence of those who came before you. The robe scratches faintly as you adjust it again. You exhale, and the cloth moves with you, sighing like an old companion. And for a moment you wonder which wears which. Do you wear the robe, or does it wear you? The thought lingers, as all thoughts do here, like smoke, and as the sun edges higher, as the room brightens faintly with pale light, you feel the knot at your waist tighten. The day has claimed you. And the robe, as always, does not let go. The robe clings, the sash holds, and the morning waits. It does not wait kindly. You rise from straw and dust, from the breath of men around you, and you step into the dim light that leaks through the paper screens. The air is colder than it should be, and the floor presses against your bare soles as though it resents your weight. Your body is stiff. Your bones ache, yet you move because the day does not allow stillness. Your first task is never chosen. It is given, carved into you like a mark. Sometimes it is training. Sometimes it is labor. Sometimes it is silence itself, which is heavier than both. Today it begins with the courtyard. You step outside, and the light of dawn cuts across your face. It is not bright, it is pale, filtered through mist that clings to the rooftops and coils in the bamboo groves. The earth is damp, and your sandals sink faintly with each step. The courtyard stones are slick, and the moss between them holds secrets of rain. The world smells of wet wood, of smoke curling from dying embers, of a day that has not yet decided if it will bless or curse you. Men gather. Some cough, some mutter, some say nothing at all. Their faces are weary, their eyes still caught in the heaviness of half-sleep. Yet they move in rhythm, as though pulled by invisible cords. You are among them, part of the body they form, a limb of something larger than yourself. Alone you are small, together you are bound, though not strong. The first task is movement. A command is barked, sharp as a blade. You obey before thought. The body knows what the mind resists. You kneel, you rise, you step, you turn. Wooden swords are placed in your hands, practice blades, worn smooth from countless grips before yours. They are heavy enough to remind you what they mean, light enough to remind you that the real ones are heavier still. You swing, you block, you step again. Each motion is repetition, drilled into bone. The master's voice cuts through the air, steady, merciless. You feel the strain in your arms, in your shoulders, in your breath. Sweat begins to bead on your forehead. Though the morning is cold, the sweat smells faintly bitter, carrying with it the exhaustion you never lost from yesterday. Your feet slip slightly on the damp stones. The moss does not care for precision. Yet you correct, as you must. The body adapts. It must. The body is not yours. It belongs to duty, to rhythm, to repetition without end. Around you, the clack of wooden blades colliding echoes like distant drums. Some strikes are sharp, some weak, some desperate. The sound builds into a rhythm, a chant of wood and sweat and breath. You swing again, harder this time. Though your arms ache, the master does not praise. The master does not scold. The master is silence wrapped in authority. His eyes measure, and you do not wish to know what they find. Time stretches. Each swing feels longer than the last, each block heavier, each breath more ragged. The morning sun climbs slowly, its light paling the mist, yet your task does not end. It repeats and repeats, until repetition itself becomes the task. The strike is the task. The breath is the task. The ache is the task. There is nothing else. And then, as though to remind you that training is not the only weight, the order changes. The blades are lowered. You are sent to clean, to fetch, to carry. The body bends as easily to labour as to practice. Buckets of water are drawn, heavy and cold, splashing against your legs as you walk. Floors are scrubbed, knees pressing into damp wood until they ache. Ashes are carried out, staining your hands grey. Each movement feels small, yet none are without consequence. A poorly cleaned mat earns punishment. A bucket spilled earns shame. Even silence earns suspicion. If held too long, the first task of the day teaches this again and again. You are always watched, even when the watcher is unseen. By mid-morning, the courtyard is brighter, though the sun itself still hides behind drifting clouds. Your robe clings now with sweat. Your arms tremble faintly from labour. Your stomach growls with hunger not yet answered. Still, you work. The body is not asked for permission. It is only commanded. And in these hours you feel the strangeness of the world most sharply. The earth beneath you feels alive, humming faintly with memory. The stones seem to sigh when water splashes across them. The wood beneath your knees creaks like an old throat, whispering a prayer you cannot hear. Even the moss at the courtyard's edge seems to breathe, slow and patient as though it knows it will outlast you. You glance at the sky once. Just once. The clouds are pale, stretched thin like rice paper. A single crow circles overhead, its cry harsh, cutting through the air like a curse. You wonder if it watches for scraps or for souls. Perhaps both. Your arms ache, your stomach gnaws, and still the tasks continue. And yet, within the ache, there is rhythm. Within the hunger, there is discipline. Each swing, each step, each scrubbed floor presses you deeper into the shape expected of you. You are carved by repetition, sculpted by exhaustion. There is no heroism in this, no poetry, only the slow grind of survival, the ritual of obedience. To be samurai is not to rise gloriously, but to bow endlessly, to bend until you break, and then to bow again. And when at last the bell rings, deep, metallic, echoing against the walls, it does not release you. It simply tells you that this task has ended, and the next has already begun. Your first task is complete, but the day has only just started, and the weight of it presses closer, heavier, certain. The clang of the practice blades fades, the buckets are emptied, the sweat dries into your robe. What remains is sound, not the silence you wish for, but the voices that fill the space around you, unseen, unending, as constant as the ache in your arms. They come from every direction, a shifting chorus, the cough that rattles deep in one man's chest, hollow as a drum struck by winter, the whispered prayer muttered by another, lips moving soundlessly over names of gods who do not listen, a grunt of irritation when the bucket slips, a curse hissed under breath, a sharp intake of air when a lash of reprimand lands. You know these sounds better than you know your own name. The voices of the others are not companions. They are reminders. Each sound tells you something of the day, of the night, of the weight you share. The cough warns of sickness creeping through lungs like a slow fire. The prayer reminds you of fear, of the uncertainty that gnaws behind every command. The mutterings of frustration reveal cracks in discipline that must not be seen. And always, beneath it all, the sound of breathing, dozens of men inhaling and exhaling together, as though the room itself is alive and your body is only one lung in its chest. Sometimes the voices rise into laughter, short, bitter, fragile laughter that dies as quickly as it begins. It comes from stories told in fragments, half-remembered nights with women, boasts of battles that may not have happened, jokes that are more about survival than joy. The laughter is strange here. It feels like sunlight through cracks in a roof, warm but brief, gone before it can linger. And after it fades, the silence is heavier than before, pressing down like damp cloth. You do not speak much yourself. Words feel dangerous. Every phrase is weighed. Every syllable could be overheard, carried, twisted. Better to stay quiet, to let the others fill the air with their mutterings and sighs. Yet silence has its cost too. Too much silence, and suspicion coils around you. Why does he not speak? What does he hide? Silence itself can become a voice, and it speaks louder than you intend. There are other voices too, the ones that command. They cut through the murmurs like steel, sharp, clipped, unquestionable. Orders barked in tones that echo off wood and stone. You hear your name sometimes, though it sounds different in another man's mouth. Shorter, harder, less yours, more theirs. The voice of command strips your name down until it feels like nothing but a sound of obedience. Even the wind finds its way into the chorus. It presses against the paper walls, sighs through cracks in the beams, hums in the bamboo groves outside. At night, it moans like a restless spirit, a sound that threads itself into dreams until you wake not knowing whether it was real. And always the crow calls, harsh, rasping, distant, yet near. Its cry carries a voice older than yours, older than the lards, older than the land itself. A voice that does not answer, only announces. You learn to know the men around you by their sounds. The one who snores like a saw dragged across wood. The one who clears his throat before speaking, though he rarely does. The one whose sighs are heavier than his footsteps. You may not know their names, but you know their voices. You know them better than you know your own blood. In this place, sound is memory. There are voices that never speak, too. The absent ones. The men who slept beside you once, whose coughs and mutters are no longer heard. Their silence is louder than anything else. It lingers like an empty mat. like the hollow echo of a bucket no longer filled. You remember them not by who they were, but by the space their absence has carved into the air. Sometimes, when exhaustion presses deepest, you imagine other voices, a mother's call though you barely remember her face, a friend's laugh from another lifetime, a lover's whisper softer than the robes you do not wear. These voices are not real, but they are more comforting than the ones around you. You close your eyes, and for a moment you pretend they are near. Then you open them, and all you hear again is coughing, muttering, the sharp crack of command. The gods, too, have voices, or so the priests say, but you do not hear them. Not here, not now. If they speak, it is not in words you can know. Perhaps they murmur through the shifting of the bamboo. Perhaps they sigh in the drip of water from a cracked beam. Perhaps they laugh in the cry of the crow. If so, their voices are cruel, and their silence is crueler still. By midday, the voices around you are louder, rising with the sun. Orders ring sharper. Men speak quicker, more often driven by hunger and fatigue. The air fills with words that scrape against one another, that clash like unseen blades. Yet beneath it all, the rhythm of breathing remains. Exhale over and over, like waves against a shore. It is the truest voice of all, the voice of survival, unending, unchosen. You wonder, sometimes, if you too are only a voice to others, not a face, not a man, but a cough, a grunt, a mutter in the dark. Perhaps that is all you are, a sound passing through air, gone before it can be remembered. The voices around you swell, then fade, then swell again. They do not stop. They never stop. And in their chorus you vanish a little more each day. The voices fade into distance, into background hum, until only one sound remains. The bell, it strikes not with melody, but with command, a deep note, metallic and unyielding, rolling across the courtyard, into the halls, through the straw mats and paper screens. You feel it in your chest before you hear it in your ears. It calls not to you alone, but to everyone, and like shadows drawn by the same flame, you all move toward it. The ritual begins before you even reach the hall. It begins in the quiet hush that falls over the steps, in the way sandals scuff more softly, in the way men lower their eyes without thinking. You join them, the motion instinctive now. Your breath slows, not because you will it, but because the moment demands it. The hall is dim, lit by oil lamps that flicker against the wooden beams, casting shadows that seem to bow lower than the men themselves. The air smells of incense, sharp and sweet, almost masking the odour of sweat and damp robes carried in by so many bodies. Almost. The floorboards creak beneath the press of knees as one by one. Men kneel. You kneel with them, your body folding as though the movement were not your own. At the far end, before the altar, the ritual waits. A simple thing, wood polished smooth, offerings placed neatly in bowls, rice, salt, water, a sprig of evergreen, objects ordinary, yet here they are more than themselves. They are memory, promise, demand. Above them, the image of the kami, distant, watchful, silent. The gods do not descend, do not speak, but their absence feels heavier than any presence could. The voice of the officiant cuts through the hush. It is low, steady, carrying words you have heard so many times they no longer feel like words at all. They are rhythm, chant, hum, a litany of duty, of obedience, of the thin line between life and death. The syllables roll like waves, repeating, folding back on themselves. You mouth them too, lips shaping the sounds without thought. The ritual is not spoken by one voice, but by all voices together, braided into one. You bow until your forehead brushes the floor. The wood is cool, faintly rough, and you smell the dust that clings to it. You bow again and again. Each repetition wears away not the wood, but yourself. You feel smaller with each motion, as though you are being folded, pressed, reduced to something simpler. A shadow, a breath, an offering. When the chant ends, silence blooms. Not empty silence, but charged, trembling silence. You feel it press against your skin, thick as cloth. In that silence, the gods are supposed to hear. In that silence, your spirit is supposed to be aligned, sharpened, purified, but all you feel is hunger, and the ache in your knees, and the faint trickle of sweat running down your temple. You dare not wipe it away. Sometimes the ritual includes blood, a chicken's throat slit clean, its body trembling briefly before stillness claims it. The sound is quick, wet, forgotten almost as soon as it happens. The blood is caught, sprinkled, offered. You do not always see this, but you hear it. You smell it. The iron tang seeps into the incense smoke until both smells are one. In those moments, you wonder if the gods truly crave such offerings, or if men crave the belief that gods do. You bow again. The officiant bows lower still. The offerings remain untouched. Yet something is taken. Not the rice, not the salt, not the water. Something else. Something within. You feel it leave you, though you could not say what it is. Perhaps it is only the thought that you had something to give. The ritual ends as simply as it began. Another bow, another chant. Softer this time. The scrape of knees against wood as men rise. The faint shuffle of feet as they file out. No one speaks. No one dares break the weight of what has just been done. You rise with them, legs stiff, back sore, head lowered. And yet, even as you step back into the courtyard, even as the air cools your sweat, you wonder what has truly changed. The gods have not spoken. The offerings remain. The hunger in your belly gnaws sharper now, and still tomorrow the ritual will return. You begin to suspect it is not for the gods at all. It is for you, to remind you each morning that you are smaller than the world, smaller than the Lord, smaller than the silence itself. To remind you that your breath is not yours, your life is not yours. You belong to something larger, something that does not care if you are swallowed whole. The incense clings to your robe as you walk away, sharp, sweet, suffocating. Its smoke threads itself into your hair, into your skin. It lingers long after the lamps have been extinguished, long after the hall is empty. It whispers when you breathe. It whispers when you close your eyes. And perhaps that is the true ritual, not the chant, not the bow, not the offering. The true ritual is carrying it with you, letting it seep into your bones until even in dreams you kneel, even in silence you bow, even in death you obey. The bell tolls again, softer this time, announcing the end. Men disperse, voices returning, footsteps quickening. The moment passes, as moments always do, but something clings, unseen, like a shadow that refuses to lift. You walk into the light of day, and though your hands are empty, you know you are carrying the ritual still, and you always will. Hunger is the truest companion. It follows you more faithfully than comrades, shadows you more closely than duty, gnaws at you more persistently than fear. By the time the ritual ends, it is there, rising sharp in your belly, a hollow drum that echoes louder than the bell. And now, at last, you are led to the meal. You do not expect bounty. You do not expect comfort. The meal is never enough, and it is never kind. It waits in bowls stacked plain and chipped, set out in neat rows on the wooden floor. Steam curls faintly from the rice, though it is not the white polished grain of poems or painted screens. It is coarse, grey with husk, uneven. It clumps when you lift it, sticking to your fingers, falling in lumps back into the bowl. Still, the steam carries a sweetness that makes your mouth water. Beside the rice, there may be miso broth, thin, cloudy, floating with scraps of tofu or the wilted leaf of a green. The broth smells of salt, of sea, of something just enough to trick the body into believing it has been fed. Some mornings there is fish, though not for you. Thin strips salted near to stone, given to higher ranks. to mouths considered worthier of strength. For you the broth is thin, the rice is clumped, the hunger remains. You kneel before the bowl, back straight, as the rules demand. You bow your head, not in gratitude but in obedience. Chopsticks lift, not leisurely, not slowly, but with a rhythm learned over years. You eat as you must, quickly but not greedily, silently but not too silently. Every motion of the meal is another ritual, another command disguised as nourishment. The rice is warm, but it tastes faintly of ash. The miso is sharp on your tongue, salt cutting against hunger, but never soothing it. You chew slowly, not to savor, but because your jaw is weary. The food fills the mouth, but not the belly. It is enough to keep you standing, not enough to keep you whole. Around you, the voices are different here. Softer, subdued. Men do not laugh over meals. They do not boast. The sound is only of chewing, of chopsticks clicking against bowls, of the occasional cough muffled into a sleeve. The silence is not reverence. It is survival. To eat is to remember the body, and to remember the body is to remember what can be taken. Sometimes when the bowl is empty, you lift it to your lips and sip the last traces of broth, licking the salt from the rim. Your hunger urges you to scrape at the grain that clings to the wood, but you do not. To be seen desperate is worse than to be seen weak, so you place the bowl down neatly, as though satisfied, though the hollowness inside you protests, louder than any crow in the sky. On rare days, scraps are shared, a slice of pickled radish passed down, a sliver of fish hidden and divided among three. These offerings taste brighter, sharper, more alive than the meal itself. They linger on the tongue like memory, long after they are gone. You do not ask for them. To ask is to beg, and begging strips more than hunger. If a scrap finds its way into your hand, you eat it silently, quickly, before envy can take form. You think sometimes of feasts you have never seen but only heard of, banquets where sake flows, where lacquer trays hold fish glazed with miso, where plates gleam with wild boar and steaming rice, polished white as snow. You imagine the weight of such food, the warmth it would give, the way it would silence hunger for more than an hour. But these thoughts are dangerous. They fill the belly with absence, and absence is sharper than hunger. Better to focus on the clump of rice in your bowl. Better to swallow, to pretend the warmth is enough. The gods do not join you here. If they eat elsewhere. What sits before you is not blessing, but ration. The land gives little, and what it gives is taken first by lords, by priests, by those whose robes are finer. What trickles down to you is what remains. You tell yourself it is enough, and in truth, it must be. You chew, you swallow, you bow again. The body bends even after the food is gone. Ritual does not end with the last grain. It continues in the way you place the chopsticks, the way you wipe the rim of the bowl with the edge of your sleeve, the way you lower your eyes as you rise. Every act is watched. Every act is measured. Even hunger must be disciplined. And then, as swiftly as it began, the meal is over. Bowls are collected, stacked, carried away. The air still smells faintly of salt, of steam, of rice, but already the scent fades, replaced again by the damp earth, by the sweat of bodies, by the musk of robes never fully cleaned. Your belly is not full. It never is. But it is quiet enough, dulled enough, to carry you through to the next task. That is the purpose of the meal, not to satisfy, not to nourish, but to delay the collapse of flesh, to bind you to another hour, another duty. As you leave, you lick your lips. The salt lingers there, faint, bitter. You swallow it down. It tastes of survival. And survival is all you are allowed. The meal settles in your belly, thin warmth fading as quickly as it came. Hunger quiets but does not vanish. It never does. And in that frail silence after eating, when voices murmur softer, when footsteps slow, when the body longs for rest, the threat of punishment always hangs nearest. You know it before it happens. You feel it in the way the air shifts, in the way men stiffen their backs, in the way silence sharpens as though the courtyard itself has drawn breath. A command cuts through the hush, and one man is called forward. He does not resist. Resistance would be another crime. His steps are steady, though each one echoes louder than it should. The rest of you remain still, eyes lowered, bodies bowed. The punishment begins with waiting. That is the cruelest part. The man kneels, head bent, hands pressed flat to the earth. You watch from the corner of your vision, though you should not. His robe hangs loose, the back exposed to the sky. His shoulders rise and fall with breath, though each inhale seems heavier than the last. He does not speak. To beg would be another wound, sharper than the one about to come. The weapon is not always steel. Sometimes it is the rod, bamboo cut thick, whistling as it slices the air. Sometimes it is the rope, knotted and heavy, leaving burns that last longer than bruises. Sometimes it is silence itself, a command to kneel unmoving for hours while the sun burns overhead, while the knees scream, while the mind frays. Today, it is the rod. The sound it makes when it lands is louder than any blade. A crack, sharp, splitting the air. The man flinches, his shoulders curling inward, but he does not cry out. He cannot. Pain must be swallowed like salt water, bitter and choking, but swallowed all the same. Another strike falls. Another. The sound echoes off the beams, off the walls, off your bones. You feel each blow as though it landed on you. The others do not move. They do not speak. Their silence is as heavy as the rod itself. The punishment is never for one man alone. It is for all who watch, for all who remember. The strike against his back is a strike across your spirit, across the fragile illusion that obedience is enough. You remember then that duty is not shield but chain, and chains are made to tighten. Blood beads, thin lines rising along the skin, seeping into the cloth. The man bows lower, forehead pressed into the dirt. You hear his breath catch, then steady, then falter again. He is strong, but strength is not enough. Strength only prolongs the breaking. The rod lifts, the rod falls again and again, until the flesh itself seems to sing with pain. When it ends, there is no mercy, no hand to lift him, no voice to soothe. He remains bowed, trembling, blood dampening the earth beneath him. The officiant steps back. The rod is lowered. The silence stretches, and you do not know if it is done until the command comes. Rise. He does, though his body sways, though his legs stumble, though his breath rasps like a dying fire. He bows once more, deeper than before, as though gratitude could erase the stripes across his back. Then he returns to his place, robes clinging to wounds, eyes lowered, lips pressed shut. He has been punished. You all have. Sometimes punishment is not physical. Sometimes it is hunger, bowls taken away, portions halved, water withheld. You remember those days most sharply, the ache in your belly sharper than the ache in your back, the way sleep became impossible as the body consumed itself. Sometimes punishment is silence, days without being spoken to, treated as though you were already dead. That was worse than hunger. To be invisible is to vanish before your time. And sometimes, punishment is exile, the slowest death of all, cast out from the hall, from the order, from the rhythm that binds you. To live unbound here is not to live at all. The forest swallows those men, the rivers take them. The soil forgets them. No one speaks their names again. You tell yourself you will not be punished. You tell yourself you will obey, that your hands will not falter, that your voice will not betray you. But deep down, you know it is not always choice. Punishment comes not only for mistakes, but for reminders. It comes to remind you that you are nothing, that your body is not yours, that your will is not yours, that even your silence belongs to another. The courtyard smells of sweat, of blood, of incense still clinging faintly from the ritual. The rod rests now at the officiant's side, but its presence does not fade. You feel it still in the air, as though each breath carries a splinter of it into your lungs. You swallow, and the taste is bitter. The punished man does not speak. He never will. His wounds will scab, his robe will stain, his back will stiffen, but his silence will outlast them all. His silence will remind you each time you kneel, each time you bow, each time you think of hunger. And so you bow deeper too, not to the gods, not to the lords, to the rod, to the promise it makes, to the memory it leaves carved into flesh. When the punishment ends, the day does not pause. Commands resume. Tasks return. The rhythm continues as though nothing happened at all, but something lingers. You carry it with you just as you carry the ritual, just as you carry the robe, just as you carry hunger. The rod is no longer lifted, but it has already fallen, and it will fall again. You know this. You bow again, and you walk on. The day grinds forward. Tasks weigh on your shoulders, hunger gnaws. Silence thickens. Punishment leaves its ghost in the courtyard, but still, time carries you onward. And yet, even as you scrub, as you train, as you bow, a second world whispers just beneath the surface. A world softer, stranger, impossible. The dream comes not when you sleep, but while you are awake. It drifts in like fog, sliding between thought and duty. You do not summon it. It finds you. It begins with food. Always food. You see it without meaning to. Steaming rice piled high, polished white, sticky and soft. Fish grilled until its skin crackles. Fat dripping onto embers. Pickles bright with colour. Sake poured into lacquered cups. The dream sets it before you. So vivid you taste it. You chew the air, tongue pressing against teeth. But the flavour vanishes before it begins. When you blink, all that remains is the rough lump of barley in your bowl, the ghost of salt on your lips. Sometimes the dream turns from hunger to silence. You imagine lying not on straw, not on a mat worn through, but on something soft, layers of silk, smooth as water, cool beneath your skin. The room is quiet. No coughing, no muttering, no rod cutting through air. Only the sound of rain tapping gently against shutters, a sound that asks nothing of you. In the dream, you can breathe without being seen. In the dream, your body belongs to you. But then, a cough from the corner shatters it. A barked command slices it in two. The dream scatters like smoke, leaving you with nothing but ache in your knees. There are dreams of escape too. Dreams where your sandals leave the courtyard, step onto a mountain path, vanish into mist. You walk and walk, the hall fading behind you, the voices swallowed by wind. Bamboo bends overhead, rivers murmur nearby, the air tastes of pine. No bell calls you back, no voice demands you kneel. You walk until your legs are no longer tired, until the road itself seems endless, but the dream falters always at the same place. When you remember that roads here belong to lords, that forests belong to hunters, that mountains belong to gods who do not answer. There is nowhere you can walk that is not already owned, and so the dream collapses, and you stand again in the courtyard, wooden blade in hand, sweat on your brow. Sometimes the dream is stranger still. You see faces you do not know but feel you should. A woman's voice calling softly though her lips do not move. A child's laughter in a place where no children live. The echo of drums from a festival long forgotten, lanterns swaying in a summer night you cannot place. These dreams cling longest because they feel like memory, though you cannot say whose memory they are. Perhaps they are not yours. Perhaps they belong to the robe you wear, or the straw beneath you, or the earth itself. Perhaps you are only dreaming someone else's dream. And then there is the dream of death. Not violent, not sudden, quiet. You see yourself lying in the same hall where you bow, where you train, where you eat. Your robe folded neatly, your body still, your breath gone. Around you, no one cries, no one speaks your name. They bow once, twice, then step over you as though you were a shadow in the floor. And yet in the dream, This does not frighten you. It soothes, to vanish without noise, without weight, without hunger, to dissolve like smoke, like mist, to be forgotten and free. When you wake from this dream, you are always calmer, as though the body itself longs for release. Dreams come most fiercely during labor, when your hands repeat the same movement for hours, scrubbing, carrying, mending. The body acts without thought, and thought drifts into dream. You lose yourself in it, until the shout of a command drags you back. The punishment for drifting is sharp, yet the dream returns again and again, as though the mind cannot stop itself from reaching for somewhere softer. At night, when you finally lie on straw again, the dream changes. It deepens. Sleep pulls you under, and images blur. You see rivers flowing upward, mountains bending like reeds, stars whispering names you do not know. You dream of lords with faces made of masks, of gods that are not silent but cruel, of halls that stretch without end. The dream is not escape then. It is mirror. It shows you the world you already live in, twisted just enough to remind you that even in sleep you do not leave it. You wake with your heart racing, though you do not know why. Sweat beads at your temples. The man beside you coughs in his sleep. The dream fades, dissolving into the sound of dripping water, into the smell of smoke clinging to walls. You lie still, staring at shadows, unsure which world is more real, the one you left in sleep or the one you return to in waking. The dream does not save you. It does not feed you. It does not protect you. But it is yours, the only thing here that belongs to you and you alone. And so you hold it quietly, even when it fades. You let it return when it wishes. You bow when you must, train when you must, eat when you must. But beneath it all you carry the dream. And sometimes when the hunger is too sharp, when the rod falls too hard, when the silence feels too heavy, you close your eyes just a little longer than you should and you step back into it. Back into the world that is not yours but still more merciful than the one that is. The day does not end when the sun lowers. It ends when you are allowed to stop moving. Though even then your body still moves in memory of the tasks. Your arms twitch as if still swinging wood. Your knees ache as if still kneeling. Your stomach tightens as if still waiting for food. The end of the day is not release. It is only a quieter form of burden. Dusk settles first in the trees. Bamboo creaks as the wind moves through it, sounding like voices whispering from another time. The courtyard darkens, shadows climbing the walls like ink spilled across paper. Lanterns are lit one by one, their flames soft and uneven, their smoke curling like the remnants of incense. The light they cast is not generous. It is pale, uncertain, reaching just far enough to remind you how much remains unseen. You return to the hall where straw mats wait. The same mats, the same dust, the same smells of sweat and smoke. You lower yourself onto the straw, body heavy, limbs trembling faintly. The mat is no softer than in the morning. The straw scratches, the dust tickles your throat, the vermin scurry beneath. Yet tonight it feels different. It feels not like a bed, but like surrender. You do not lie down because you wish to. You lie down because there is no choice. Around you, men settle as well. Some murmur briefly, voices low, words indistinguishable. Some cough, hacking, wet, rattling in their chests. Some fall silent immediately, as if their bodies cannot risk wasting breath. The room fills with sound again, the familiar chorus of exhaustion. You close your eyes, but the noise remains. It always remains. Your stomach growls again. The meal was never enough. Hunger sharpens at night, when there is nothing to distract you from its echo. You press your hand to your belly, as though to quiet it, as though to remind it of discipline. But hunger is louder than discipline. It gnaws even in dreams. The gods are no closer at night than they were in the morning. The altar is empty, the offerings forgotten, the silence complete. If the gods speak, it is not to you. If the gods see, it is not here. Perhaps they once walked among men. Perhaps they once received the rice and the salt and the blood with open hands. But now they are shadows only, distant, silent, cruel. And yet you feel watched, not by gods, by the earth itself. The soil remembers every step you took that day, every drop of sweat that fell, every splatter of blood spilled in punishment. The earth is patient. It waits for you as it waits for all. It does not hurry. It knows you will come to it in the end. You always do. You drift between wake and sleep. The straw prickles your skin. The cough of the man beside you rattles through your ribs. The faint drip of water from the ceiling echoes endlessly. A slow reminder that time itself bleeds drop by drop. Your eyes grow heavy, but still the dream does not come. Not yet. And you wonder, as you always do, how it will end. Will it be blade, fever, hunger, a command too sharp to disobey? Perhaps you will simply vanish, carried out into the forest, buried in shallow earth, forgotten before the next sunrise. No one will remember your name, not even you. Names are fragile here. They do not last longer than the bodies that carry them. Perhaps you hope for a quieter end, to sleep one night and never wake, to sink into straw, into dust, into silence, to join the earth that has waited patiently all this time. The thought is not frightening. It is soothing. To be forgotten is mercy, compared to being remembered only as another body in a line, another cough in the dark, another back bent beneath duty. The room grows heavier. Shadows press closer. Lanterns sputter. The air thickens with breath, with smoke, with the weight of exhaustion. You close your eyes fully now, no longer resisting. The straw shifts beneath you, whispering as though it knows. The whisper says nothing kind, but it says something true. You belong here. You will not leave. You are already part of us. And as you drift, half asleep, half vanished, you hear again the crow. Its cry cuts across the night, harsh and certain, carried from some distant perch. You wonder if it calls for scraps or for souls. Perhaps it makes no difference. Sleep comes slowly, but it comes. You sink, breath by breath, into the dark. The coughs of the men fade. The drip of water softens. Even hunger quiets, as if tired of gnawing. Your body loosens, your mind drifts, and the dream waits just beyond reach. You do not know if you will wake tomorrow. You do not know if you wish to, but you close your eyes anyway, and you let the night take you. Because here, in the end, there is no choice. Only the slow surrender of flesh, the silence of gods, the patience of earth. And maybe now, for a little while, you can finally sleep. The night has settled, heavy and endless. Lanterns burn low, their flames trembling, shadows bending long across the beams. Around you, men breathe. Some shallow, some broken, some uneven with fever. The air is close, thick with smoke, with sweat, with hunger unspoken. And you, lying on straw that pricks your skin, drift slowly, slowly into the silence that waits beneath all things. There are no voices now, no commands, no coughs, no laughter, bitter or otherwise. Even the drip of water from the roof has stopped, as though time itself has grown weary. The only sound is your breath, softer with each rise, each fall. It carries you, wave by wave, into a sea that has no shore. You think briefly of the tasks you did today, the robe that clung, the blade that swung, the bucket that spilled, the bow that bent your body low. They pass through your mind like shadows passing across a paper wall. They leave no mark. They are already gone. The punishment too. The rods crack, the blood on the earth, the silence of the man's bowed head fades into distance, into haze. All of it dissolves, as though it never belonged to you at all. You are lighter now, as if the robe has slipped from your shoulders, as if the sash has loosened, as if the armor has been set down forever. Your body is bare though no one sees, bare though no one cares. The weight that bound you, duty, hunger, silence, lifts piece by piece, until you are not lying on straw at all. You are lying nowhere. You are nothing. The dream begins again, but this time it is different. No steaming rice, no roads into mist, no faces from forgotten lives. This dream is emptiness. Vast, endless, soft. It does not feed, it does not punish, it does not command. It only receives. You sink into it as into deep water, the surface closing above you, the world fading until there is only dark and dark and dark. You wait for the gods. They do not come. You wait for the crow. It does not call. You wait for your name, but it does not arrive. Not whispered, not remembered, not even by yourself. The absence should feel cruel, but it does not. It feels right. To vanish is not punishment, but release. To be forgotten is not sorrow, but rest. No one remembers your name, not even the gods. But the dirt does. The straw does. The walls do. The shadows that bent and stretched across the paper screens, they remember too. And now, at last, you do not have to. Your breath slows. Your body stills. The earth opens its patient arms, and you sink quietly into it, leaving nothing behind but dust and silence, and the faint memory of warmth. You are gone. But the soil remembers, the shadows remember, and they whisper you to sleep. Forever.